Nasal obstruction is a very common problem. We see many patients with complaints of not being able to breathe well through their nose. Many patients find this bothersome to their day-to-day lives. They just feel that nasal obstruction is just hard to tolerate, and sometimes it leads to problems with exercise tolerance. Very frequently, people will come in complaining it's interrupting their sleep. They often feel like their sleep quality is impaired, or they're doing a lot of mouth breathing that's leading to a dry mouth. And then sometimes the dentist will get angry with them because they'll have increased amounts of plaque or tartar or inflamed gums. Patients like to breathe through their nose. There's lots of examples and evidence that when patients can breathe clearly through their nose, people feel more calm, more rested, more relaxed. And with nasal obstruction, they tend to get frustrated and just feel like things just don't work right for them. The causes of nasal obstruction are incredibly varied. Most commonly, these can be from structural problems. This can include, as many people are familiar with, a deviated septum. That would refer to the cartilage and the bone in the nasal cavity being shifted or asymmetric. That will usually lead to asymmetric nasal breathing. People say, I can breathe out of my left side, but my right side's always blocked. That can also lead to annoyances like poor mucus management or drainage. People will feel like they have a runny nose on that side, or postnasal drip, or they'll have lots of sneezing or congestion or inflammation that is irritating to them. The other structures in the nose that very commonly become inflamed are tissues we call turbinates. Turbinates are these small bones inside the nasal cavity with really vascular soft tissue. They're basically little sacs of blood. And their main goal in life is to warm and humidify the air as all that blood flow circulates through the nasal cavity. They also make mucus to clean and purify the air such that by the time the air gets down to their lungs, it's warm, humid, and clean and purified. Many patients will get excessive swelling of their turbinates. This can come from a variety of reasons, but most commonly we think about things like allergies, chronic sinusitis. Sometimes it can get worse in pregnancy. As patients get older, they develop a phenomenon we call non-allergic rhinitis, where they'll have lots of drippy nose, kind of watery nose, where people are dabbing their nasal cavity with tissues all the time. Other reasons for nasal obstruction include impairment of the nasal valve. It refers to the soft tissues of the nose either being too narrow or getting weak and collapsing every time they breathe in. For these patients, they really like doing things that spread open the nasal cavity, like using a breathe right strip or other nasal dilator. Sometimes patients will say they just like to sit pulling their nose open like this, and that gives more space for them to breathe. And then after that, we start to think about things that don't belong in the nose. This can include polyps or cysts or other growths. Sometimes patients can have chronic sinusitis that can lead to lots of tissue inflammation. That can even include a big adenoid, that's like the tonsillar tissue in the very back of the nose, very commonly enlarged in children who end up having trouble breathing through the nose, postnasal drip, and cough all the time. And then sometimes all this inflammation can even start to affect the ears, and people feel like they have congestion or fullness in their ears or need to pop their ears. One of the first steps that we always take in order to treat nasal obstruction is using nasal sprays. This can most commonly include things like nasal steroid sprays, like over-the-counter Flonase or Nasacort. There's also forms of antihistamine nasal sprays called azolastine, or over-the-counter, it's the brand name would be called Astapro. And then many patients like to use salt water in their nose. This can include something as far as like a neti pot or a saline irrigation, where you circulate water through your nose to lead to decongestion and washing out mucus and getting rid of impurities, to sometimes patients just like a simple saline spray, just a spritz in there just to get things opened up. Allergies are very common. I think people very frequently think about seasonal allergies, where they have hay fever or they react to certain things in the environment like trees and weeds and grasses. These can lead to swelling in the nose, leading to congestion, runny nose, sneezing, and itching. Many patients also have indoor or what we call perennial allergies. Most commonly, this will include dust mites, which are little microbes that often congregate in our bedding or upholstery or carpeting. These microbes eat our dead skin, and so they tend to be wherever people are. And they cause a reaction, especially causing congestion in the nose. Oftentimes, patients can also get irritations from things like molds and other sort of musty environments, pets. And then sometimes patients just have nasal congestion because that's just how they're built. Some patients get easy swelling in their nasal cavity, and they can even respond to things that are non-allergens, such as certain dust or smoke or perfume or other things in the environment. And then we'll also have patients that really feel like certain types of foods cause an inflammatory reaction in their body. Most commonly, this include things like dairy or sugar or gluten products. Many of these patients do really well with doing a low inflammatory diet where they get some of these things out of their diet and they feel like their nasal breathing congestion really decreases. On occasion, we'll sometimes see even reflux from the stomach contents coming all the way up, particularly while patients are sleeping, getting in the back of the nose and creating inflammation and nasal congestion. And again, when patients get the reflux under control, things seem to open up for them. For patients who have persistent nasal obstruction that seems to be beyond allergies, that is to say, there's no seasonal variation or their congestion is persistent despite different locations, if they travel to different environments and the congestion persists, or if it's beyond just simple, I have a stuffy nose and watery running mucus and sneezing and itching, then we should start to think about other phenomenon. This can include anatomic problems like a deviated septum or polyps or congenital narrowing in the nasal cavity, or something like chronic sinusitis, which can be very similar to allergies, but often tends to be more extreme and include elements of thicker mucus, postnasal drip and cough, and symptoms like recurring sinus infections or chronic pressure congestion through their sinuses and nasal cavity areas. For patients with persistent nasal congestion that's not responding to typical therapies, this would include things like over-the-counter nasal steroid sprays like Flonase or Nasacort, antihistamines like Claritin or Zyrtec or Allegra, and saline in their nose like neti pots or other saline irrigations. We should start to think about other problems. When patients come in for evaluation, we'll do an examination of their nose. This could include something like a nasal endoscopy. This is where we put a small camera into the nasal cavity to inspect the nasal structures and look for inflammatory signs, signs of sinusitis, or other lesions that don't belong in the nose, as well as potential imaging like a CT scan to be able to evaluate for whether or not patients have chronic sinusitis, other inflammatory disorders of their sinuses. We will sometimes also, if the clinical suspicion is high enough, treat people with more aggressive medications like antibiotics or steroids, or tend to go down the pathway of getting allergy testing or allergy evaluation to see if you're allergic to something that you're not recognized, including food allergies or indoor allergies that are sometimes harder to diagnose. For patients with persistent rhinitis that's not getting better with medical therapy, we have a variety of options to lead to improvements. This can include more aggressive allergy therapies, such as immunotherapy or allergy shots. It can also include certain medications that are aimed at chronic sinusitis as well as polyps. And then we can also start to offer patients procedures. One of the more common procedures we do is something we call turbinate reduction. This is a procedure where we shrink the nasal tissues in the nose so that they just can't get as inflamed or swollen as they typically do. This can be done simply in the office using local anesthesia, or more aggressively in the operating room, where the procedure is akin to liposuction, where we get inside the turbinate to remove some of that excessive vascular tissue and lead to shrinkage of the nasal turbinates. This can be especially helpful for patients who feel symptoms of turbinate swelling. This can include fluctuating nasal obstruction, where sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's not bad. Or when patients lay down on one side, they feel the congestion leading to the side that's on the pillow, and then they flip their head and the congestion moves to the other side of the pillow. These are typical symptoms of turbinate swellings. A good test to see if you have turbinate swelling is to use a topical decongestant like over-the-counter Afrin spray or neosynephrine. These sprays are very powerful constrictors of the blood vessels in the nasal cavity that can lead to really aggressive shrinkage of those turbinates. If you use these medicines and have a really wonderful effect, that can be a sign that turbinate swelling is a big problem for you. It's important to recognize, though, that these medicines should not be used with any regularity, as your body can get used to them. And with too much use, you can end up with more congestion than when you started, so no more than 3 days a week. The decision to do nasal surgery really rests upon how aggressive the patient wants to be with improving their clinical symptoms and their lifestyle. For patients that aren't responding very well to medical therapy and have persistent congestion that may be impacting their life, nasal surgery may be right for them. The decision about what exactly to do will depend upon the patient's individual anatomy, but will range from simple turbinate reduction, either in the office or operating room, maybe straightening a nasal septum that is deviated off to one side and causing persistent blockage, or even doing more of a functional rhinoplasty to open up that nasal airway and improve the shape or projections of the cartilages to give better airflow through the nasal cavity. The decision about which direction to go will be a conversation with the patient and shared decision making and understanding what the patient's goals are and what will be best served with them. One of the most common procedures we do in the operating room is to straighten the nasal septum and reduce the nasal turbinates. That procedure is an outpatient procedure. You will go home the same day. You will typically have splinting inside the nose for approximately a week. During that week, you'll feel a degree of congestion and maybe sinus pressure. And afterwards, symptoms will start to resolve over a period of about 3 to 6 weeks. During this time, you might feel a degree of soreness in the nose, some excessive mucus or postnasal drip, and some sensitivity if you end up touching the tissues. For patients who are interested in improving the nasal breathing, but don't need the degree of surgery required in the operating room, we have a variety of in-office procedures to help with patients' nasal breathing just under local anesthesia. This can include simple turbinate reduction, where we use a little wand to deliver radiofrequency energy to the nasal turbinates to allow for shrinkage. We also have a device in the office called the Vivere wand. This delivers, again, radiofrequency energy more to the soft tissues of the nasal skin to cause them to shrink and open up the airway. Another option we have are devices that ablate the distal nasal nerve. This is a nerve that runs from the brain into the nasal cavity that leads to congestion and sometimes excessive runny nose or mucus production. These procedures aim to ablate that nerve to calm the tissues of the nose down to help patients with their nasal breathing and have less runny nose. For patients who are having bothersome symptoms with their nose, including persistent nasal obstruction, persistent mucus production, recurring sinusitis, snoring, mouth breathing, or other problems, they should come in for an evaluation. We will often start with an examination, which may include a nasal camera examination through the nose, or even a CT scan and certain medication trials. For patients who are not getting success with medical therapy, there's lots of procedural options, including in-office procedures or even surgical procedures. If you're feeling like you're having trouble with any of these problems, please come visit us over at SH Medical. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe below, and we will be back with more videos in the future.